Okay, I turned on the recorder. As you all know, we are going to put this recording on Vince's Corner, and it will just be the recording. There will be no video. So here we go. A couple announcements. We have the Sound Healing Workshop on Saturday, June 5th. It's actually going to be here at Starting Point. It will be from 2 p.m. till 4. So you're all welcome to attend. Our current policy is we are treating our building like a medical office building. So we are following CDC regulations, and that means you must wear a mask in all of the common areas. And then depending on the counselor that you're seeing or what the group consciousness decides, the masks may stay on in offices or not. But in common areas, it has to be on. I can't wait until I don't have to say that anymore. Can I just tell you, I'm so tired of being the mask police, but I'm sure you're all tired of hearing it too. And then June 10th, we have another podcast. This one's a little different. Kevin Elsey is going to join me for a conversation about forgiveness, which I think is really going to be an interesting conversation. So that will be at 6 p.m. Thursday night, June 10th. And I think that's all we got, right, Vince?
Okay, yep.
It's all yours.
I want to mention that if you get a chance for that podcast on forgiveness, Kevin is an interesting person. He's a minister that works with hospice. He's worked with hospice a good portion of his life. So if you have an opportunity, he really understands the concept of forgiveness. He's a good guy. Okay. I'm going to kind of begin. I picked a reading from the For Today book, which is my daily meditation book for my eating disorder program. So I'm going to share the reading. And the reading I picked is from October 16th. Not that it's October 16th, of course. How should we expect charity towards others when we are very uncharitable to ourselves? The injustice we do to ourselves was aptly expressed by a member who said, if someone treated me the way I treat myself, I'd sue. While it may be true that I tend to be harder on myself than I am on others, in a larger sense, if I do not feel kindly towards myself, I cannot extend kindness to others. I'm allowed to make mistakes, and so are other people. Errors can be pointed out and corrected without harsh measures or cruel words, without any type of self-recrimination. For today, steps 4 through 9 are a highly effective way to deal with my inability to accept imperfections, my own and others. I kind of picked that reading because it kind of brings out the whole flavor and concept of steps 4 through 9. But I want to emphasize something very strongly as I get into steps 4 and 5 today. I want to emphasize the fact that in order to be able to really do these steps, I refer to steps 4 through 9 as the working steps to do our work, to truly go on a journey of what I refer to as self-discovery and self-healing. And I love these steps because they actually teach us who we really are. The early founders, when they put this program together, understood that many of the alcoholics back then were basically flawed people. A lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and a lot of memories of things they did in their insanity and their addiction. And they needed to go through a process of healing and learning and growing. As we take these steps and realize now, I don't know if they truly realized it back then, but we can actually apply these steps to any area of our life. They're a way of life, and really they're beautiful and they do work. And yet it's important to do steps 4 through 9 with a positive attitude, not with a negative attitude. It's called an attitude of healing. I never thought in my wildest dreams I look back at my history and my past, and especially things that I kind of did crazy and insane, and things I made mistakes on, and things I did to others, and look at them and be able to face them with a positive attitude. And that's one of the things I found out as I began to do this work and get in touch with it. I realized the fact that everything we do in life, every one of our experiences, no matter what they are, can really be something beautiful and positive, or they can be something very negative. Heard me say this plenty of times that we all have our garbage, we all have our crap, we all have stuff that can be experienced in life. It's nice to be a human being and have all this stuff. But if I'm able to process it and face it, it then becomes really, in reality, healing growth for me as a person. So in the fourth step, you really can't get into the step unless you really have done the work of the first three steps, because you need a sense of faith, a sense of trust, and a sense of openness to really begin to do this. In the fourth step, we talk about taking a fearless moral inventory of our life. It means being able to look at yourself and do what we refer to as a fearless inventory. Not doing it in fear, not doing it negatively, but be able to go back over our history and go back over our past and be able to finally begin the process of healing. Now, the old timers in AA taught me something very beautifully, and I still use it today. They always talked about the greatest therapy tool on the face of the earth was the art of writing. And they really emphasized the fact that if you actually write with a pen or a pencil, and you put stuff on paper, you actually are doing a therapeutic process, because what it does is it opens up and lets stuff flow and start to come out. They used to say, when you start a fourth step, make sure you do it with prayer, do it with an open mind, and just ask the higher power, whatever you choose to call that, to open your heart, open your mind, and allow you to be able to release and put on paper the things you can remember, the things that happened in your life. Be as honest as you can be, but always remember to temper honesty with love and with healing. This is not about being brutally honest. We all have a history, and I can share on a personal level because I'm a person that kept a lot of secrets inside of me, kept a lot of feelings buried for a long period of my life. I have to be exact about it, probably for 44 years. Even when I first came into different types of recovery, I still never really did work the way it was supposed to be worked. And I can relate back to this because in 1975, I did my first fourth step. I look back on it today, and it really wasn't a fourth step. It was more like a confession. And so many people in recovery have kind of used this way. When I was a priest, being around the rooms of recovery, a lot of people did their fifth step with me. And I used to joke about this a little bit. It's almost like they would back up a garbage truck to the rectory and dump everything on top of me and then want to leave. And I say to them, stop. You've been here for an hour and a half, dumping all your garbage on me. Now, I want you to do the other half of the step. They said, what's the other half? I said, now I want you to be able to process the stuff that you share with me and be able to learn, grow from it, and be able to see what you can learn from it. So these things that you've experienced, things you've gone through, the mistakes you've made, you can use as a way to learn something positive from them. Always was a great believer, because one of my favorite writings and books that I've been connected to for a long period of time was The Power of Positive Thinking by Vincent Peale. And I truly believe that even though we have a tendency, because we're human, to very easily start this process by looking at what's wrong with us, and we're good at that. Looking at things that basically we beat ourselves up over with. That's why I did that reading today. And be able to realize that everything that happened in our life, no matter what it is, even the things we did, we screwed up, the mistakes we made, they were all experiences that can one day become our teacher. They can become our strength. And we can then be able to share them as a hope with others. But the hardest part about this is to realize the fact that, I'm going to use the term, take it slow. The fourth step is not a one-time event. And I find it interesting because I just completed another fourth step in my new program of EDA, and I love the way they processed it. Every 12-step program does this differently. In Al-Anon, you have the blueprint for progress. In AA, you have the different ways of doing the steps. What I learned in this new program I've been in now for quite a while, my Eating Disorders Anonymous program, I love the way they did it because they had you identify stuff you had to look at. But the most important thing was at the end of each worksheet they gave us, they had resolution. How can I be able to find something positive from the things I've experienced in the course of my life? And I realized today, and it took a lot of prayer, a lot of work, and being able to really take time to write. And I've learned today that writing is therapeutic. And the old timers were right. Because when you write your story and write your life story, people always kind of laugh at me a lot, but all the books I've written, all the different thoughts for the month, all the things I've been able to do, I've done through the process of writing. And then, of course, thank God, I've always had a good secretary who could read my writing. Not too many people can. And be able to then type it up for me. But I realize over and over again the value of that, because I realize the fact that when you write, you share. It's amazing how we have so much beautiful things inside of us, but it's almost like the fourth step is being able to face the negative, process it, put it out there. But notice they said in the fourth step, they told you to write it. They didn't say a word in the fourth step about sharing it. Why? Because we're human. And I'm still have a little bit of control when I'm writing. And it's only until we get to the fifth step, they talk about sharing it. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But the bottom line is they're having you go within your own self. That's why it's important to pray first. Ask the higher power to open your heart and open your mind and allow you to look at the things you're ready to look at. And I learned this. Again, I really learned a lot from listening to my elders, the old timers, I called them. I learned so much from them, God rest their souls, but they taught me a lot. And they used to teach me over and over again that when you do a fourth step, don't try to analyze yourself to death. Just say a prayer, open your heart, open your mind, and begin to write. And whatever comes out, that's enough for now. See, because I've learned over the years, we process stuff a little bit at a time. I'll give you an example. When I did my first fourth step in 75, I was honest as I could be for that time, but I really wasn't that honest. I was kind of doing it because I had these people called sponsors that were kind of pushing me to do it. I didn't really want to do it. And then about 10 years later, I did another one. And this one, at least I cooperated with this one. The other one I did, but I really wasn't cooperating. So I did a better job. And as I got better and better now, I do them because I want to do them. I look forward to them. I go through the healing process with them. I got some very special people now I can do them with. And that's important. One of them's here in this lecture today. And it's a beautiful part of the process. As we learn from each other, we grow from each other. We experience from one another. And that's what's so important. And that's where that trust comes into play and faith comes into play. And that's why it's important when you write your history and get in touch with your history. Remember, I told you this so many times, and I'll say it, I hope to the day I die. Your history is your most powerful teacher. We all have a history. I always talked about this over and over again. You heard me say it so many times. I love the human library. Each and every human being I've met on the course of my journey in life has a story. And I'm grateful for those stories. I'm grateful that they are who they are. I'm grateful how much they've taught me. And every human being I meet is one of my teachers. We're all teachers and pupils to each other every day of our life. And none of us have come into each other's life by accident. Everything happens for a purpose. And as a result, then we continue that journey. Some stay for a longer period of time. Some leave and then come back. Some, you may have to just have for a short period of time. And some hang around for a long period of time. And I love this. That's really what it's really all about. And so every situation, every person is one of your teachers. And that's why the fourth step connects with the fifth step. And in the fifth step, they tell you to share your inventory, to share your history with God, with yourself, and with another human being. And so very gradually and very slowly in the fifth step, they start the process of sharing. I'm going to backtrack just for a minute and talk about codependence. See, as codependents, we have this little disease. It's been around for a long time. It's called keep your mouth shut disease. I love it. We don't share too much because we have a tendency to have this zipper across here. And as a result, it takes time for us. It takes a lot of trust to be able to start the process of being open. What I have found so interesting is that recovering addicts, you tell them to do a fourth step and they regurgitate. It's amazing. If you tell codependents to do it, they hem and ha, and it takes them a while to really get into it. And that's okay. Because I know when we have a lot of secrets, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of stuff we carry inside of us, it's not easy to begin the process of sharing. Notice the philosophy behind the fifth step. Share it with God. I never thought my wildest dreams, my wildest imagination, that my story, the story of my life, would be a prayer. Because I really believe that if you do share the gift of yourself with your higher power, you are making your life story into a prayer of healing and a prayer of growing. And that's why it's important to have that second and third step in place before we actually do this. Because as I share my story and who I am and what I'm really all about, and I share all my hurts and pains and the things I've experienced, the mistakes I've made, and I begin to really get this gift of honesty, I want to be able to know I can share with my higher power, because my higher power looks at all these things through the eyes of prayer, through the eyes of healing, through the eyes of growth. It also tells us to share it with yourself. It's such a powerful thing when you actually write your inventory and then you read your own inventory. I spent the past week and a week and a half going back over all the different worksheets I did in my fourth step. And I found it really interesting. And so I decided to sit down and write out all the resolutions and things I put together over the weeks. And there's like some 26 or 27 of them, which is really neat. I learned a lot. And to be able to open them and begin to share them and look at them and realize the fact that to share them with yourself, I think sometimes we don't take time to look at our own history, to acknowledge our own history, and to realize that your history belongs to you. It's personal. It's powerful. And that's really helps me to understand that every human being, I don't care who the person is one of God's creations, is unique and special. And never look at yourself negatively. And that was good about that reading today, because I know from my own experience, we've all done it. Other people see us totally different than we see ourselves. And many of us as codependents and as people with addictive personalities, we have a hard time to, accepting a compliment. I know one of the things that my therapist did for me, and I did it for a lot of other people when I did the inner child work, I told you about it when we did the codependency series, was to ask people to write letters of affirmation to you. And, when they read them to me, I said, whoa, and then I look at stuff today, things I get, I realize more and more It's so hard sometimes to accept compliments. And yet people can see stuff in us we can't see in ourselves. We are our own worst critics so many times. And many of us have been trained to do that. I know when I was a kid, if I ever said and talked about personal stuff or stuff to that effect, I'd be told, be quiet. Little kids should be seen and not heard. You don't know what you're talking about. And so very many times growing up in that kind of an atmosphere, you always kind of migrated towards the negative instead of the positive. Instead of being influenced to be able to get in touch with feelings. Because so many times I was told to get in touch and help everybody else with their feelings, but please don't work on your own. Because if you actually start talking about this stuff, you might learn something. Wow, it's amazing, isn't it? I get excited about this. I can't help it. Then it says to share it with another human being. Now, I got to say this. It doesn't say to share it on national TV. It doesn't say to share it in your local newspaper. But I got to tell you a story. That's why you got to be careful when you do this stuff. A number of years ago, I was invited to a local college to speak to some college students. And I basically was being honest, and I was sharing part of my story and different things in this direction. What they didn't tell me was there was a newspaper reporter in the crowd. The next day, I picked up a local newspaper, and guess who was on the front page? Me, my story. It got me pretty upset. I went through a lot of changes. But since then, I've learned. I don't mind sharing my personal stuff with people in recovery. I don't mind sharing with people I feel comfortable with in my groups. But when it comes to the national audience and stuff to that effect, I kind of keep things very simple and keep them more on an educational basis. I've learned we've got to take care of ourselves. And so the step says, share it with another human being. Start slow. Find somebody that you trust. But here's the rules that are so important. Find somebody that will listen to you, but not give you advice. See, I don't want advice. I just need to be able to share my stuff and let my stuff out and to put it out there. Now, later on, I can talk to people and say, if you want to give me some feedback, it's okay. But that's the choice I have to do that or not to do that. Some programs encourage that, but that's also a personal choice. That's something you can choose to do. I can remember in my own life, I'll share a story. One of the issues I had to deal with in my own journey were issues of things that happened to me as a child, things that were very embarrassing, and things that I really don't like to talk too much in public about. And they were very sensitive. And I realized the fact it took my therapist a long time to get me just to share that stuff with him. And then to be able to share it. He eventually got me to share it with another human being. And the amazing part about it was, once I started to talk about it, I began to share it. Something special began to happen. It's almost like, did you ever think about this? When you keep something in your head, you just keep it there. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. When you actually share it, it's not so big. I've had plenty of sleepless nights when something came up in my mind. I was trying to figure something out, analyze it, all kinds of things. So I've learned, I told you this before, I keep a pad in the kitchen with a pen, in the bathroom with a pen. And so I get up, instead of sitting there making myself crazy and getting this thing, whatever it is, to become gigantic, I go and write it, get it out. And I go back to sleep. And then the next day, I have find somebody I can actually share it and I can talk about it and I can use it in a positive way. But I know my head gets me in a lot of trouble. And that's why slow. My father used to say, bien, a little bit at a time. So you begin to open up. And even in doing this work you've done a long time ago, you may not need to go back and do it again. This is not about going over stuff over and over and over again. That's why sometimes in doing a fourth and fifth step, you might do it at one phase of your life, and then other stuff comes up, you do it another phase of your life. And later on, we'll see where the 10th step plays right into that and helps you along on a daily basis. And so these are actually ways of us learning about who we are, getting in touch with who we are. But above all, it's about healing. It's about making peace with the past. It's about learning. It's about growing from it. It's about developing a positive recovery process. I look at this today and I get excited because I realize steps 4 and 5 are very special steps. As a result of these steps, I realize today I've got a history. Do you know, I'm going to tell you this. For a long period of my life, I never understood any of that. For a long period of my life, I functioned. I went through rituals. I organized programs. I did all kinds of stuff. I never realized how everything that happened in the course of my journey was part of me, part of my experiences, part of what I went through in life. Today I can look back and I can say, wow, you really went through a lot. You experienced a lot. You did some pretty crazy stuff. You made a lot of mistakes. And God, I want to share this just for a few minutes. Mistakes are actually a gift, because a mistake means that we can actually face it, embrace it, and learn something positive from it. And later on, we'll even learn how to be able to make amends and make settlement with stuff in your life and make peace and move on. See, the founders knew all this. They knew we had a lot of guilt. In fact, I found it interesting in the last step work that I did, they actually gave us a sheet, a sheet on fear, a sheet on guilt, a sheet on resentments, a sheet on frustration, a sheet on every crazy little thing that you can look at in your life and realize, wow, isn't it great to be human? It means you get upset, you go through changes. It means that you have these feelings that go on inside of you. And yeah, at times you'll have resentments. You have to work through them. As I've learned a long time ago, any resentment that you have really is yours because it doesn't hurt the other person, because half the people don't even know that you have a resentment against them. It's amazing, isn't it? What we do to ourselves. God, it's great to be human, isn't it? The stuff that we do, it's amazing. We have to learn healing and forgiveness and realize the fact, yeah, we make mistakes. We say things and then later on, we try to take it back. Maybe learn from it. I know about you, but I've suffered many times what I call foot in the mouth disease. Did you ever experience foot in the mouth disease? Then it takes a long time to get that damn foot out of that mouth. And that's where making amends and settling things and doing things come into play. And so I think what's so beautiful about these 2 steps, they actually humanize you. It lets you look at your humanity. It lets you take a look at what's going on inside of you. A good friend of mine in AA used to say to me all the time, he used to say, Vince, when you actually get into these steps 4 through 9, you'll get into your humanness. And you'll be able to rest. You'll be able to be peaceful, because you'll be able to accept the fact that you don't have to be perfect. See, I've learned over the years, perfectionism is destruction. Humanness is recovery. And to be human, to be able to be open to this and open to new things and new directions in life, that's what this really is all about. Because your history is your most powerful teacher. We all got a history. We have to acknowledge it and be in touch with it. And be able also to honor other people's history. That's why I love this program, because I'm connected to all different types of people, and I get to find out their history. And their history is a teacher for me. You know how many times in my life I've learned just by listening to the sharing of another person and just to see the things they went through. I never forget, one of my great, great teachers, Norm, and some of the things he talked about and some of the things he went through. And you got to learn so much from him. Another great gentleman I learned from, and this guy was a real character. I don't want to use his name, but he spent 10 years in prison. He went through hell and literally looked back on his time in prison. And he actually said, I thank God for it every day. Because it wasn't for that journey I had to go through and those things I went through, I wouldn't be who I am today. And yet you can't come to that overnight, believe me. Because who in their right mind or imagination is going to look back and say, I spent 10 years in prison and I'm grateful? Not too many people are going to do that. And yet, if you do this work, you can look back on things in life that were very traumatic, things in life that are very hurtful, and you can begin to look at them through the eyes of healing, through the eyes of forgiveness, through the eyes of growth. That's why I refer to these steps as the working steps, the healing steps, the steps of growth, the steps of discovery. They have a lot of different names, but to me, they really are one of the ultimate therapeutic tools of learning about life and growing in life. And so please learn something very special today. Don't be so hard on yourself, okay? Each one of us is beautiful and special. Congratulations. Look in that mirror tonight and see the most beautiful person in the world. I always tell people this. Before you go to bed at night, stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself and say, God, you're special. You're beautiful. I love you. And then go on an adventure. Go up to the mirror and kiss yourself goodnight. What an adventure. Brush your teeth first, though, because you got to watch out for that breath. But the beautiful part about it is we don't take time to do this. And what I learned in the fourth and fifth step, to acknowledge my humanity, to acknowledge my humanness, to acknowledge the things that I've experienced. We're going to get more into this next week. We talk about step 6 and 7, which I love, my two favorite steps in this whole entire program. I call them the human steps, the human steps of humanity. We talk about what I call defects of character, which actually are assets, not defects. I love that so much because when I look at this and I realize the work that we do in the course of our journey, it's really exciting because it's all about self-discovery. It's all about learning about yourself as a person. And it's all about doing a lot of growing. And that's part of what life is supposed to be. It's supposed to be an adventure. It's supposed to be a new discovery. And so everything in life has a purpose, has a reason why it's there. And so take the time to look within your own self. And I say this as much as I can because I love you and I really care about you. Don't get into doing a fourth and fifth step unless you're ready to approach it with a positive attitude of healing. This is not about finding out what's wrong with you. I'm sorry. There's not a thing wrong with anybody in this room. Congratulations. Isn't it wonderful? Yeah, we have things that we screwed up and we may mess out of things sometimes. And we wonder why if I only had know what I know today, I wouldn't have did the things I did yesterday. That's a bunch of crap too. You know that. Because back then, even if you knew what you knew today, you probably still would have did the same thing you did because we're human. I've said this so many times that sometimes, in growing up, we have to kind of have growing pains. I look back at my own life. I look at some of the most beautiful teachers in my life, elders, older people. The Indians say it all the time in my meditation book. God, they must say this 100 times. Sit at the feet of the elders and listen to their stories. Why? Because they have the experience of their history, the experience of the age. Learn from them, be open to them. If you can't always agree with them, still be open to them because they are your teachers. And it's our job to pass it on. So in doing inventory and looking at your life and doing a healing process, we have something powerful to pass on to others. I love sitting with my grandkids now and passing on some of the stories, some of the things I experienced. And I'm grateful today because I came through a lot of years of a lot of different changes and things that have occurred in life. Isn't that wonderful? I look back and I look at simple little things, that I experienced, that today I look back on them and I can smile at them. At the same time, you know, I did some crazy stuff. Billy remembers this. We had the tomato trucks on Second Street going into Camel Soup, and we used to kind of help ourselves to some tomatoes off the truck. And a few times we almost got ourselves killed by being run over by the truck behind us. It's amazing some of the crazy things we did and the stunts we pulled. And yet, guess what? Somehow, some way, we're still here. Somehow, some way, we learned from that. It's crazy, some of the crazy stuff. And, I had the wonderful opportunity this past 2 years to write my history, my spiritual journey. And after I finished writing it, my wife actually said to me, God, if I had known you back then, I would probably not come near you. You would have scared the hell out of me. I said, well, God, what? If I had known that back then, I probably would have scared the hell out of myself too, because I still can't believe some of it. And I laugh about that today. But we have to look back on life, and that's how we grow. We grow from things that have happened to us. So loosen up, okay? Relax. You're on this journey. We're together. And the beautiful thing about all of this is you don't have to do it alone. Thank the good Lord. You don't have to do it alone. And so today in prayer, my prayer is just going to be something very simple for us to be open, to open to new things and new directions, to be open to the journey of life, to be open to the experiences of the past. And so together as a family, let us pray. God, we come before you. We come before you in a sense of humility. We come before you in awe. We say thank you for our journey on this earth. Thank you for those who have gone before us. And hopefully we can pass on to those who are coming in front of us. Help us to be messengers of love, messengers of peace, messengers of learning, and messengers of healing. Teach us not to be afraid to look at our lives, to be able to embrace them, to share from them, to learn from them, and grow from them. For no matter what has gone on in our journey, each and every moment happens so we can learn something new about ourselves and grow. Thank you, God, for all the experiences. Thank you for all those who have passed before us, for all the teachers and people that are part of our journey in life. And I thank every day as God, as I look through the walls of Starting Point, the memorial walls, and I think of all the people that have been part of the journey of this beautiful place. I thank God for them every day, as I thank God for you every day. One day my name will be up there, and hopefully probably yours will too. Because I said so many times, God, you've given all of us a round trip ticket. And you're the conductor. One day you'll probably call us home. And when you do, I hope and pray that each and every one of us will be able to stand before you and say, I did the best we could. Thank you. Thank you for the journey. Thank you for the love. And thank you for all the experiences we've had in life. So as a family, we pray and we ask for this guidance. We ask for this direction. We come here in gratitude, humility, and love. And we come here and pray in your name. Amen. And now I'm going to ask all of you, if you don't mind, unmuting yourself. And very simply, if we can just join together and say the we version of the Serenity Prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.